Here's something that might totally change how you think. While you're lying awake worrying about paying off your mortgage before retirement, wealthy people over 50 are actually taking on more debt, and they're using this surprising strategy to grow even richer while others are stuck stressing over bills. It sounds crazy because your whole life you've been taught that debt is bad, that you should pay cash for everything, and retire debt-free or you've somehow failed. But here's what no one tells you: the richest Americans are ignoring that old advice and instead using other people's money to grow their wealth faster. And the wild part? If you're over 50, you probably qualify for the cheapest money of your life. Your credit is strong, your income is likely at its highest, and you've built up years of equity in your home that's just sitting there unused. But instead of taking advantage of this powerful position, most people waste it, too afraid of what others will say. I'm about to show you the exact 5-step method that millionaires use to turn debt into wealth after 50. This isn't some shady get-rich-quick trick. It's about using what you already have to finally create the financial freedom you've worked for. Want to know the first step? It's understanding what you really own. Rich people don't use debt blindly, they first take the time to calculate their real net worth, not just for show, but so they know what they can actually use. Because here's the truth, you can't grow wealth with tools you don't even realize you have. My friend Robert from Dallas thought he was broke. He was 53, had been an engineer for 28 years, and believed he'd never have enough to retire. But when we actually sat down and looked at his finances, the truth shocked him. His house was worth $480,000, and he only owed $160,000 on it. His 401k had $320,000, and his credit score was an impressive 792. Robert was sitting on over $600,000 in borrowing power and had no idea. Here's what you should do right now: go to Zillow and look up your home's current value. Don't guess, because most people underestimate. I've seen people who thought they had a $200,000 house find out it's worth $350,000. Then, add up all your retirement accounts, 401k, IRA, whatever you've got. I'm not saying you should borrow from these accounts, that's usually a bad idea, but banks look at your overall assets when offering you a loan. And don't forget your credit. If you're over 50 and have managed your money decently, you probably have a long credit history, which is extremely valuable. You can get your credit reports for free once a year from all 3 bureaus at annualcreditreport.com. The truth is, many people over 50 have what I call stealth wealth. They've been slowly building value in their homes and retirement accounts for decades but don't realize they're sitting on a financial goldmine. The wealthy don't just guess what they own, they know it, track it, and use it wisely. Your monthly cash flow matters too, how much money you bring in versus what you spend. Can you handle new loan payments? If you're close to retiring, think about how your income will change. The key shift in mindset is this: rich people don't avoid their money out of fear, they pay close attention, like athletes track their training. They manage their finances like a business, always knowing what's coming in, what's going out, and what they can leverage. Now that you know your worth, it's time to move to the second key: finding cheap money. Here's where rich people think totally differently from everyone else. While most people are focused on paying off debt as quickly as possible, the wealthy are actively looking for the cheapest money they can borrow. Think about this: if you can borrow money at 5% interest and invest it to earn 8% or 10%, you're actually making money from that loan. One of the cheapest sources of money is often your own home. If you bought your house 20 years ago, you might have $200,000 in equity just sitting there, doing nothing and earning zero. But you could tap into that equity with a cash-out refinance or a HELOC, home equity line of credit, at maybe 5.5%, and if you use that money to invest wisely, the interest might even be tax-deductible. Now imagine earning 8% to 12% a year on that $200,000. Take my client Sandra from Phoenix. She's 58, owned her home outright, and was proud she had no mortgage. But her $400,000 of home equity was making her nothing. We set her up with a HELOC for $150,000 at 5.75%, and she used it to buy a duplex. After all expenses, she earns $800 a month in rental income while the Helic costs her $700, so she's profiting from day one and growing wealth in a second property. If you have investments in the stock market, there's another tool rich people use called securities-based lending. Brokerages let you borrow at very low rates using your investment portfolio as collateral. The best part? You don't have to sell your investments or pay capital gains taxes, you just borrow against them to buy more assets. And if you run a business, it gets even better. SBA, Small Business Administration, loans often come with some of the lowest interest rates available. The government actually helps make certain loans incredibly appealing by subsidizing them, which smart people use to their advantage. Wealthy individuals follow a simple golden rule: only borrow money when the cost of borrowing is much lower than what you can earn from it. They're not taking out loans to buy cars or go on fancy vacations, they're using debt to buy things that make them money, like investments and income-generating assets. Starting to see how this could work for you? If this feels like a totally new perspective, type "eye-opening" in the comments so I know it's clicking. Now, here's where it all starts to shift. Step 3, buy income, not stuff. This is the real turning point. Instead of spending money on things that lose value, rich people focus on buying income streams. And for people over 50, this strategy is often safer than just hoping the stock market keeps going up. You're investing in something that pays you every single month. A cash-flowing asset is anything that brings in more money than it costs to own. For example, imagine owning a rental property that brings in $2,500 a month but only costs $1,800 to cover the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and repairs. That's $700 profit every month, and someone else is paying off your mortgage while you earn money. Let me share James' story. He's 54, works in manufacturing, and had never owned rental property before. He used a Helic to pull $90,000 from his home at 6% interest and used it as a down payment on a 3-unit building worth $360,000. After all his costs, including the Helic payment, James is now earning an extra $1,100 every month. But it gets even better. Over 10 years, James will earn about $130,000 just from rental cash flow. Meanwhile, his tenants will pay down around $70,000 of the mortgage for him. And if the property value only grows by a modest 3% each year, it'll be worth $480,000 in a decade. That means James turned $90,000 of borrowed money into over $300,000 in wealth without using his savings. Here's another strategy that works great if you have investment accounts: borrow money at 5% interest and invest it in dividend-paying stocks that yield 7 to 8%. For example, if you take a $100,000 loan at 5%, it'll cost you $5,000 a year. But if you invest that money into solid dividend stocks that pay 7%, you'll make $7,000 annually. That's a $2,000 profit every year, plus any stock growth on top. Wealthy people also use something called debt recycling. When their assets grow in value, they refinance, pull out more cash, and use it to buy more income-producing assets. It creates what I call the wealth flywheel, where every smart purchase helps fund the next one, all without touching their personal savings. Here's the critical difference between wealthy investors and financial gamblers: the rich don't rely on prices going up. They buy things that pay them every single month, no matter what the market does. That monthly cash flow is what covers their debt payments, everything else is just bonus wealth. I once met a Japanese businessman who put it perfectly. He said, "Americans think debt costs them money. We think debt makes us money. The difference lies in how you use borrowed money. If you spend it on stuff that loses value, debt ruins you. But if you use it to buy assets that make money, debt becomes your secret wealth partner." Now comes the fourth accelerator: reinvest every dollar. Here's where rich people really pull away from everyone else. They don't just earn passive income, they reinvest every single dollar to grow their wealth even faster. This is the key difference between having a little extra money on the side and actually reaching full financial freedom. Most people make a big mistake when they start earning passive income. they treat it like bonus money and start spending it on lifestyle upgrades. Rich people do the opposite. They see every dollar of passive income as a seed that can grow more income. Let's look at some real numbers. Suppose you're making $1,500 a month in passive income, that's $18,000 a year. Don't touch it. Reinvest it instead. Buy more dividend stocks, save up for another down payment on a rental property, or use it to pay down the loan on one of your investments to lower your risk. My client Patricia from Colorado did exactly this. She started with one rental bringing in $900 a month after expenses. Instead of spending that money, she saved her cash flow for 18 months, bought a second property that made her another $1,200 monthly, and by the third year, she had enough combined income to buy a third. Today, Patricia owns 4 rentals and makes over $4,500 a month, all because she kept reinvesting instead of spending. But this strategy isn't just about growing your wealth. It also protects you. You can use part of your income to build an emergency fund or create a reserve account so you're covered if anything goes wrong with your properties or investments. Cash gives you flexibility, whether it's jumping on a great opportunity or handling unexpected repairs, and smart investors use it wisely. One powerful move is using your passive income to pay down the principal on investment loans. This lowers your risk, boosts your net worth, and reduces your monthly bills. It's like forced savings that pays off long-term. Rich people know how to grow income fast by stacking income streams instead of just paying off one debt at a time like traditional advice says. Picture this, you start with one stream making $1,000 a month. You save that up and add another income stream. Now you're making $2,000 a month. That extra cash helps you build the third stream even faster. With 3 or 4 streams, you might be able to buy a new asset every year, without even touching your regular paycheck. That's how wealthy people build real retirement security. They don't rely on Social Security or worry about slowly draining savings. Instead, they create multiple streams of income that keep flowing every month, no matter what the stock market or government is doing. If you've ever felt frustrated watching your savings grow painfully slow, wondering if you'll ever be able to retire, this income-building method could be the answer. If this concept is totally new to you and feels like a game changer, type "This is new to me" in the comments. Now, let's get into the final and most important step, how to protect everything you've built. This final part is absolutely crucial because I've seen people build real wealth using smart debt, only to lose it all by making careless mistakes. Wealthy people don't just get rich with leverage, they stay rich by avoiding big traps. The biggest danger? Over-leveraging. There's a fine line between using debt wisely and stretching yourself too far. The wealthy always test their deals with tough questions. Can this investment still make money if rents drop 20%? What if interest rates jump? What if the property sits empty for a few months? David from Atlanta learned this the hard way. He dove into real estate and bought 3 properties in 1 year. But he stretched his finances too thin. When one property needed a costly roof repair and another sat empty for 2 months, he didn't have enough cash to cover the bills. He had to sell one property at a loss and almost lost his own home. David's mistake wasn't using debt, it was taking on too much without keeping emergency reserves. Rich people don't rely on perfect situations. They plan for worst-case scenarios, lower rent, longer vacancies, higher repair costs. If a deal only works when everything goes perfectly, they walk away. They want deals that still make money when things go wrong. Another major mistake is mixing personal and investment debt. Some people use home equity to buy cars, go on vacations, or fund their lifestyle. That's extremely risky, you're putting your home on the line for things that lose value. Wealthy people are clear about why they borrow money. They only use debt for things that produce income, not for things that drain their wealth. Investment debt should only be used to buy assets that make money, like rental properties or businesses. Personal expenses, like vacations, cars, or shopping, should always be paid from your income or savings, never from borrowed money. You also need the right team to guide you. Wealthy people don't try to do everything alone. They hire fee-only financial planners who don't earn commissions, CPAs who know real estate and business taxes, and attorneys who specialize in protecting assets and setting up proper legal structures. I learned this lesson the hard way. Early in my career, I got excited about building wealth and jumped into investments without enough research. I lost around $40,000 on a real estate deal that looked great on paper but had hidden issues. That mistake taught me how valuable it is to have experts review deals before putting money in. At this stage of life, you're not chasing fast money like someone in their 20s, you're building long-term financial security. Every financial move should support that goal: freedom from money stress, a secure retirement, and the ability to leave something behind for your family. Rich people succeed with debt because they treat it like a precise tool, not a blunt force. They borrow carefully, with a clear plan, and always with the future in mind. The goal isn't to borrow as much as possible, it's to borrow in smart ways that build lasting wealth. The key takeaway from everything we've talked about is this: wealthy people over 50 actually embrace debt because they've learned how to make it work for them, instead of letting it control them. Wealthy people use debt to buy assets that make money every month, like rental properties or dividend-paying stocks. Then, instead of spending that income, they reinvest it to buy more assets, creating a cycle that keeps growing their wealth. They also protect their money by avoiding the common mistakes that wipe people out, like using too much debt or borrowing for personal stuff. This whole approach isn't about taking huge risks or doing complicated things, it's about using the financial tools you've already built over years of working hard and building credit. It's a smart way to turn what you already have into steady income that gives you real freedom and choices. So, think about your situation. Do you have home equity just sitting there, not working for you? Do you have investment accounts that could be used to get low-interest loans without selling anything? The truth is, your 50s and 60s might actually be the perfect time to grow your wealth, but only if you start thinking like the rich do. While most people are just trying to get out of debt and hope their savings last, you could be playing offense, using smart debt to build multiple income streams that pay you month after month, for the rest of your life. If you found this video useful, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to not miss our future uploads. See you in the next video.